on YouTube. Look at that. Excellent connection. Here we are. We did it. Gordon, we're live.
Hey, everybody.
Yep.
A lot of stuff to talk about today. We have basically
a lot of stuff.
New Ryzen APU.
With slides.
With, slides. And also new Radeon. Plus Beast Canyon. And, of course, you can't buy these in California anymore. No, just kidding.
Oh, no. Spoilers.
Oh, boy, here we go.
Oh. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, everybody. We're late. Little technical difficulties. Like always, you know.
Still getting used to getting back in the office.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Still used to getting back in the office. Cool. All
Hybrid.
right. Speaking of which, I still have not made the new intro that I need in here, so I'm going to do it the herky-jerky way, is what I'm going to call it. So I push this, and then I push that. Okay.
Get out of the way.
All right. Gordon, I'm ready if you are.
Yeah. Sorry we're late. So we're going to kick this off. None of the usual banter that drives people crazy. Ready?
I'm ready.
This is 186, right?
Is it 186? Yes, 186.
Next episode is basically a PC for homicide. So.
Oh, goodness. Okay. Cool. I think I'm ready.
In this episode of The Full Nerd, Ryzen APU, Radeon GPU, Beast Canyon, and California PC ban.
Real janky way of doing it, but I did it.
Welcome to the episode 186 of The Full Nerd, which sounds really complicated the way I backed into that sentence, but that is because my name is Gordon Maung, your host, with co-host Brad Charkis.
Hello, Internet.
Alaina Yee.
Hi, everyone.
And Adam Patrick Murray controlling the vertical and horizontal.
Hey, we're here. We're still in the studio, still having some hiccups in production, but you know what? That's the fun part. It's called job security, right? Then as long as things are still broken and I'm the only one who can fix it, I still have a job. Is that a good way of putting it?
Yes. So you're saying you're breaking it intentionally so you have a job? Because that's the way you do it. That's how Scotty kept his job that whole time.
Really?
Yeah, he was like, oh yeah, it's gonna take hours to get the engines back online, Captain.
He actually confessed to that in Next Generation when he was talking to Jordy. He's like, you have to overestimate. So then you look like a superstar when you come through and like half the time. Jordy's like, what? No, I give my captain the real estimate.
Yeah. And actually he confessed, and I just want to point this out because the Star Trek nerds will get angry, but Star Trek 3, Search for Spock is where he first confessed that.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay.
because Kirk goes, how long is it going to take to fix the Enterprise? Like, it's going to take, 2 weeks, but you don't have 2 weeks, so it'll take about an hour and a half.
I like that.
Scotty's your contractor. He's just your contractor. Well, it's probably $5,000. Ooh, it's hard to get lumber right now. It's going to take a while. Well, we came under budget. It was $4,789. So, whoa, hey, you saved me money. You're a hero. And I know I said take 4 weeks and only take 3 weeks. That's
yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, yeah. Now I'm learning all these new tricks. I'm gonna have to start doing that. It's
yes.
like, you know what? You can expect the Full Nerd at 10:30, but actually we went live at 10:50. Whoops. It worked the other way. Wrong way. Yeah, dang it. All right. Well, you know what you can expect is some new hardware to get launched, even though everybody's angry about it, right? Right?
I haven't read, but that's why I'm just going to sense in the force that there's probably anger. But do we want to go with Radeon first, or do we want to go with APUs?
Let's go with the 5600 XT because we kind of already talked about it a little bit when the leaks came out, and obviously there's more to talk about it hopefully once reviews hit. So I'm sorry,
5600 XT is last year.
I'm sorry, 6600 XT.
Yeah.
Spoilers. I just broke embargo for the 5600.
I'm sure the
XT.
pricing is better though.
Yeah. So this year's news is the Radeon RX 6600 XT. Which is the 5600 XT's successor, as you can tell by the name. It's also targeting epic 1080p experiences. AMD in the briefing with reviewers was, talking up how many gamers love ultra fast monitors these days, which is true. You should definitely, more frames are better. Based on a new Navi 23 GPU, so a smaller GPU than ever. Looks like it kicks butt. As far as what it says it's going to do, they say it's going to be up to 15% faster than the RTX 3060 in, a various of games with resizable bar on both, smart access memory on, AMD's name for resizable bar, across, 10 different games or something like that. 15% faster on average. They say it is up to 1.4 times faster than the 5600 XT it's replacing, so 40% faster. Again, it looks like they stuck to modern games, I guess people are calling them these days, DirectX 12, stuff like that. And 2.5x faster than the GTX 1060 6GB, which is the most played, graphics card on Steam. The elephant in the room about all those comparisons is that while the 5600 XT launched at $279, this card is launching at $379. So a whole lot more. The GTX 1060 also launched around $260. So yeah, mid-range costs a whole lot more now than it did a year ago, basically. AMD has reasons for it. Obviously, everything pandemic related is still going on. Logistics suck right now, et cetera, et cetera. All these companies are warning that, they're having troubles finding the supplies to actually make the components, like the substrates for chips and stuff like that. And right now, there's actually a big issue with GDR6 RAM prices. That's what AMD specifically mentioned to me, saying they've doubled in price from the first quarter to the third quarter. So,
wow,
it sucks. It's $100 more. I'm worried that this is going to stick around after this generation, and this is going to be a reset even once all this happens. For right now, the pricing makes sense. But yeah, it's $100 more. There won't be an AMD reference card. It launches on, I forget, August 10th or 11th. It's going to launch with a variety of AIB boards. So you'll have all the custom boards, all the usual suspects, XFX, Sapphire, ASUS, stuff like that. You won't be able to get AMD reference card. They're not going to be making those. So that means there won't be a reference card selling for the MSRP on the AMD site as sort of an anchor, like there are with the rest of the Radeon boards, which is kind of ominous sounding. I was speaking with the Radeon product manager, and he did stress that, these board partners are going to have models that, at least going into Newegg and Best Buy, all these retail places, have the $379 price point. Pretty much everywhere but Best Buy is probably going to mark that up significantly, just going off past launches. And, we've seen that with prior launches. I think they said this, NVIDIA said the same thing with 3060. There will be $330 cards, and there were a few, but they were available in very, very limited quantities when board makers focus more on the big expensive cards, so that way they make more money because everyone's willing to charge more money and pay more money right now. So yeah, it looks like a cool card. The price is a bummer. The price of everything is a bummer right now. This is no different.
Why do you, I mean, in the past, AMD sort of said, we're going to continue to do reference cards to sort of like help give people a bone. What do you think is motivation for skipping it this time? Is it, I know they don't do it on the low end. Is this actually considered a lower end card, I guess?
That's kind of the crazy part to me. I mean, it's 2021, and this is a $380 card, and we're talking about 1080p gaming. One thing I didn't mention, actually, is that it's Infinity Cache. The Infinity Cache is the on-die L3 memory that RDNA 2 GPUs keep right on the die so that they can do a lot of the memory stuff without having to actually go all the way out to memory. It's been letting them put smaller memory buses on the cards, which greatly improves efficiency. It's, big part of RDNA 2. They dramatically reduced it for this card because they are targeting 1080p with this card. I forget what size it is, 30 megabytes, 32 megabytes, something like that, but a lot smaller than the other ones. So the most interesting thing to me to test is, because it only has 128-bit bus, whether or not you can actually play 1440p very good, or if it's going to get memory choked, bandwidth choked because of that bus. So,
well, that would kind of suck.
See.
Huh?
Yeah.
Well, using something like FSR would that, and then upscaling to 1440p or 4K, would that still choke it, or?
I'm not even sure it's going to happen. One, you're going to have to test it and see.
True.
Two, it'll depend very much from game to game. And there are ways to get around it doing stuff like that, but FSR is obviously game dependent, like a game has to support it. So we're just going to have to see. I think they're saying this is 1080p for a reason. They designed the Infinity Cache in this one to be hitting with a similar hit rate to the other cards at their resolutions. Here we go. So the 6900 XT and 6800 series cards, they target 4K resolution, and they got 128 megabyte Infinity Cache. The Radeon RX 6700 XT, 1440p resolution, got a 96 megabyte cache. This one has 32 for its 1080p. So we'll have to see how that goes.
Huh. But I guess I wonder if the math there is, with this, we don't have a compute unit to even push really 1440 anyway, and they sort of think the gravity is at 1080 anyway, so why waste it?
Yeah, we'll have to see.
I guess,
because you would think a $400 graphics card that can do high refresh rate 1080p gaming would do all right for 60 frames per second 1440p. So that's why I really am interested to see if that's the case here.
Yeah,
I think this is going to be the first time we can truly see how much of a difference that Infinity Cache makes. Because you can hop between the resolutions.
And, I think what's also important, too, is if a 3060 is maybe a little bit slower at 1080, but actually does better at 1440, that's an opening. And it feels like they wouldn't want to leave that opening for NVIDIA.
Yeah. Yep. An interesting thing is funny. They're comparing it when they were talking to us, AMD. They're comparing this card to the 3060. The 3060 obviously is priced much higher on the street. Theoretically, let's talk about MSRP. That costs $330. So when AMD is like, hey, this card is up to 15% faster than the 3060 in these games, that's actually 15% more cost too. So it's not any better price to performance wise for what it's worth. So just something worth noting. At $380, I'm actually going to test it more against the 3060 Ti, and I'm really curious to see how it compares there.
Yep. It'll be interesting to see how it shakes out, because I feel like for everybody who was looking to upgrade from a previous generation, like 60 class or equivalent, it's kind of a bummer, all this news, even without having the benchmarks in hand yet, where it's like I remember talking beginning of the year where people were asking us, hey, when are we going to see cards in the more mid-range finally appearing for us? Is it going to be March and April? And we all said to them, like, no, we don't think we're going to see it till summer, which came true. Like, what are we're August now, right?
Yep.
And then on top of that, it's like, oh, it's going to be $100 more than you were expecting, and it might not give you the performance you were hoping for at that price point. It's like, it just seems like such heartbreak for everybody.
It does. It's especially funny because a few years back, AMD was making a big deal out of like 80% of cards are sold in the $100 to $300 price range. So, this is the 60 class card for $379. It is what it is. It's going to sell. Hopefully this actually alleviates the situation somewhat, because these Navi 23 dies should be much smaller than the ones in the other cards, so they can get a lot more of them per wafer. So there should hopefully be a lot more supply depending on how AMD handles everything. So fingers crossed there at least.
I haven't really followed it too closely, but I keep hearing predictions that 3060s are, basically flooding the streets, and like you find them in recycling bins. Is that any of that happen? No.
You can buy them, but they still cost a ludicrous amount of money. You can find them more frequently at proper retail sites. There's still like if you say right now, I want to go buy a 3060. There's no guarantee whatsoever that you'll be able to go buy a 3060 from Best Buy, a Newegg, etc., etc. You are able to find them more regularly, at least on eBay, and more frequently on those sites.
Just not at a great price.
I was talking with Keith yesterday, and and trying to figure out who this is for, because I can't imagine too many people who are, say, on like a 1060 like really upgrading for that price. Like, this feels more like hey, I'm new to PC gaming and I'm trying to get in on the cheap newest thing. What is your take on that, Brad?
I don't know if I really have one at this point of the GPU shortage. Like it's all these cards are way more expensive than they used to be, and that's a big bummer. That used to be a strength of the PC. You could build a console beater for a really good price and you could do your taxes on it. Now it's very much the opposite. At this point, if someone is looking to get into gaming, I would probably say, go get an Xbox.
Whoa, wait, there's one other thing you can do too.
Oh no, come on. Words. Oh no. Chat's already said it.
There's a service you can use, I think, too.
Yeah, Stadia.
Yes. I was trying to switch it up for this one.
I disagree, Adam. I think if you're on a 1060, I mean, that's a pretty ancient card. It still is a pretty good card, but if you could get this card at its MSRP, that's, well, I mean, the 1060s were $280, weren't they? They were not $200 GPUs.
They were 260 or 280, I forget, for the 6 gigabyte version.
But originally they were sort of $300 cards.
Yeah. But this card still is $100 more. Like, in my experience, at least, people typically, unless they, get a big promotion, they jump all the way to the high end. Usually people are like, okay, I will spend up to, let's say, $300 on a graphics card. When it's time's to upgrade a couple years later, okay, what can I get for that same $300? And it's not the same now.
But also, if you think about it, if you're still at 1080p and you're not upgrading your monitor at the same time, that 1060 actually isn't too bad. I've been using it for my gameplay, like scaling videos, and have been pretty surprised. Especially, I finished shooting a video on Chernobylite, a really awesome game. I've really been enjoying that. Probably my hit of the year so far. And it has FSR in it, which I was able to run on the. Did I do 1060 or maybe I did 1660 Super? I can't remember, but like having it on those lower end NVIDIA GPUs as well, like I was able to actually get pretty good performance. So I think a lot of people are probably just like, I'm just gonna wait this. I'm gonna hold on to what I got.
Yeah, but I mean, regardless, I just think that same customer, it's memory prices have doubled. So I mean, I think. I think that class they would still consider buying it if they really felt like they wanted to. Like if you bought a high refresh rate panel and you wanted a little more over a 1060, then
it should be a big improvement. Like they said, 2.5 times. So we'll see if that's true in testing. But I'm sure it's these guys don't lie. These companies don't lie in their marketing. Typically, they show the best numbers, but they don't lie in the numbers. So,
Well, the good news, Brad.
Yes.
If you can't afford that GPU, you can buy a new APU.
2021's best GPU of the year. Maybe.
Definitely,
maybe we'll see. Actually, somebody in the chat, I'm sorry, it scrolled past. Somebody was saying that it was Rurutu, friend of the show. Rurutu said, I think integrated GPUs are the new mid-range or entry.
Yeah,
right?
I would agree with you, to be honest. IGP is a new entry level that never would before. You would have just bought a $90, $150 card. That I don't even know if there are $150 cards anymore. So not that are just old cards, right?
Well, what do we got?
We have 2 new CPUs, Ryzen 5000 G series. Officially, of course, they've leaked. They've been out in OEM boxes already. People have already reviewed them, so there's not too much excitement. But these are the full retail parts, Ryzen 7 5700G, 8-core, 16-thread, boost of 4.6 gigahertz, 20 megs of cache, 65-watt TDP and 8 CUs at 2 gigahertz. There's also a Ryzen 5 5600G 6-core 12-thread. SMTs on both of these. 4.4 boost, 19 megs of cache, 7 EU. So you step back 1 EU, 65 watt TDP. These are basically sort of. See, this is a problem with hardest things.
Gordon,
what?
AMD uses CUs. Intel uses EUs.
Did I say that? I thought I said C. I was even looking at this.
Oh man, busted.
We don't have.
It's the same thing.
They got the Big Mac. We got the Big Mick, right? That's a reference to coming to America, right?
Yes.
Yep.
McDowell's. I need a McDowell's T-shirt. I saw one the other day. So you step back 1 CU. These are AM4 parts. They work in, I guess, 5 series and up motherboards. Of course, the price is the one thing that I'm going to guess, knowing the internet, people are unhappy about. The Ryzen 7 5700G is $359. The Ryzen 5 5600G is $259. They will be available August 5th. We have some benchmark numbers, though, which is kind of cool.
Wait, you reviewed this?
I reviewed it, but honestly, what the cool thing is, we did an international effort. I had logistics issues, and I had the CPUs, but I didn't have what I felt was a proper motherboard to test it in. That's fine. So I leaned on our German cousins. So this is PCWorld's numbers. All the testing done by Sebastian. I'm going to mangle his last name.
I think it's Schenzinger.
It's Schenzinger, right? Okay, yeah. So Sebastian, Seabass is another one thing you can use. It's a good one here for Raiders fans.
Oh man,
he actually tested it. We're going to walk through. I told Adam and Brad and Alaina, I'm only going to do 5 slides. But actually, some of these are combo slides. I think I went to 6.
No, you sent me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
No, wait.
Including that first slide that I just showed.
Oh, you just showed that one. Okay, well, the 8. That's fine. We're going to go through it first. First one is Cinebench R23. Basically, Maxon's, latest renderer test, 3D rendering. It is more of a stress test than it was before. And that 5700G, and I want to point out again, these are essentially desktop versions of the Cezanne, which has just been a phenomenal CPU in laptops. We sort of see that moved into desktops. There's a key difference, more PCIe lanes, which on laptop, there's like 8 PCIe lanes on the Ryzens. These actually have 16, Gen 3, not Gen 4, but hey, it's more, which is a big improvement over the original APUs, which had one half, and like one, like one quarter, they got Intel had those leftover from those Skylake X with all the KB Lake X parts. They had no PCIe on them. I guess that's what happened to them. But Ryzen 7 5700G, look at that. Cinebench, again, rendering test basically favors all cores. Also, CPUs that can hold better to the thermals. Pretty phenomenal, right there in the middle. Right. At 14336, single-threaded performance, also very, very respectable, right there with most of the other 5,000 parts. I do want to point out the key difference between desktop non-G parts. This is a single chip design. Of course, the full non-G parts are, multi-chip designs, obviously less PCIe, also less cache in this. This is basically got about half the cache of the true non-Gs, but it does relatively well, and it is right up there, bumping right up against a Core i9 11900K Rocket Lake part. I would say Rocket Lake's.
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah, Rocket Lake has a decent amount of performance, but I mean it's still faster by a decent amount. But you'd be embarrassed to have a lousy APU creeping up on you with your Core i9.
Yeah.
I do want to point out, though, the way Sebastian runs his tests, different than the way I do it. He basically disables PBO, MCE, runs DDR4 3200. I leave the boards in auto. I feel most people are going to run auto on both those modes, and I also run them at 3600. So Rocket Lake definitely gets a nice bump when you are running auto on MCE and at higher clocks. So actually, my numbers put Rocket Lake ahead. It doesn't matter, though. This is an APU creeping up on your i9 part. So that's embarrassing, especially because that is the top-end desktop i9 part. And, also single threading, of course, i9 much better, but this Ryzen 7 5700G is a good part. Look at that. It's well ahead of that, 6-core 5600. This again is 8 cores. It's an 8-core Ryzen mobile part. Less cash. Next one, Handbrake. Interesting, Seabass does a ton of stuff. He basically takes a 12 gig file. It's a little different than ours. 12 gig file, runs it through Vimeo, YouTube, preset, but still, this is Handbrake 1.33. CPU, not running on the GPU, of course. And 5700G, look, awesomeness. Frankly, I see this on laptops where, AMD 5000 is just awesome in multi-threaded tests. It's awesome in Handbrake, especially things that just kind of like take a long time to run, burn off some of those boost advantages of Intel. And it's right there. Look at that. Right over shoulder.
I think, this is like, people are probably going to complain about the price, like you said, but people have been asking for 6-core, 8-core APUs. This is what you've been asking for. This is what you got, and I find the results, awfully impressive, actually.
Yeah, no, I mean they're really nice, and of course, the big cores win here. The 12 and 16 cores are in front of everybody. But next one is something more realistic. Honestly, nobody's sitting there running Handbrake all day or Cinebench if you're a normal person. This is Adobe Photoshop. So this leans less on all of the core advantage that Ryzen has. The efficiency of the cores matter, the clocks matter, but AMD has actually done really well. This is Puget Bench, Puget Systems. It actually uses Photoshop, runs it through a script, spits out a score. Impressive, of course, that 1-2-3 finish of Ryzen desktop. I mean, that says it all. Rocket Lake, though, not looking bad. Those like 1, 2, 3, 4, like and remember, Rocket Lake is an 8-core part, and it is right up there. And I also want to point out that Photoshop Puget Bench, there's a GPU component computed into the overall score. Seabass used a Radeon RX 6900 XT, I believe, so a pretty beefy GPU. So that does make a difference, but the same GPU is used across all of these. But look at that, where that 5700G is. It's yes, it's definitely in that sort of second pack, but it is number 5. So clearly it's a fast APU for what you're getting, right? And look,
how much does the 5600X cost? 330, 320? Is that what it costs? 300?
It's, gosh, I should know. It's in my review. I wrote it yesterday. 4s. It's like
5600.
It's like 5600.
5600X is like a 350. 350.
I thought it was $300 part.
I think so, but I think it's street of somebody can look that up.
No, it's been coming down. It's been coming down, actually. I've been actually starting to see weirdly slight sales on the 5600.
I think 309, right? 309.
All right, it's right around there. And it's super impressive to see an APU beating that.
Yeah. No, and the APU costs more, but of course, it is 8 cores versus 6. And actually, I don't actually have the 5600X's cache committed to memory, but no, it is. And again, I'm not surprised as someone who plays with a lot of laptops with Ryzen 5000. It is an impressive part. It is hell of an impressive part. So this is again, and so yeah, great. And the next one is actually gaming, because clearly the big improvement over the previous APUs, especially the 3400G, was the only real consumer part you could get. That was Zen Plus, 12 nanometer, 4 cores. This is a huge increase in performance over a 3400G. The APU side, though, better, but maybe not probably what people were hoping for, but still very good. First up is Counter-Strike Global Offensive. He runs at 1080p low. More frames better. Look at that. It's actually pretty decent. 149 versus 114 for a Ryzen 5 3400G. I mean, I would argue that is pretty good. A lot of that comes from the improvements that we saw with the Zen 3 core. Zen 3 core is a real big improvement over Zen Plus. I mean, Zen Plus is that's going back to the old days at this point. So Counter-Strike, you generally will see this in Counter-Strike. And also, nice thing that's on top is the same 5700G. So running just 3200 CL14 149, you go out instead, you buy 3600 DDR4 Oh boy, this will trigger Ian though. He put megahertz in here. That will trigger Ian.
He is in the chat.
Don't look, Ian.
Yeah.
They're German. They're German.
Also, CL16. So CL16, you're going to see a decent bump from going from 3200 to 3600. Again, remember APUs, IGP. You don't have a frame buffer. You use a system memory. More faster memory, more bandwidth generally gets you more performance. So that's nice. But that is a really decent uplift in Counter-Strike. Next is Fortnite. Because he did I don't know how he runs this test exactly, but that is a super popular game. And I will say, because I don't know if I'm wrong here, but I think for parents who are looking to build a system or buy a system for their kid, and I'm talking to the parents because usually people who buy systems for Fortnite is the parent, interestingly, is my interpretation. Again, Ryzen 750, 700G with that Vega 8, 101 average versus 91. It's a decent bump, but this is probably the thing that might kind of go like, whoa, I have a 3400G and you're only giving me 10% more in Fortnite. I kind of want, what's up with that, And, this is not the improvements you're seeing on the graphics side is not what you're seeing on the CPU side, where you go from max, 8 threads to max 16 threads, and you go from Zen Plus to Zen 3.
It depends on how you look at it. From a practical standpoint, there is an improvement. It's not as huge of a jump.
Yeah.
But you got to remember that the last gen ones had more CUs in them, the Vega-based ones.
Right.
So they had, I think, 10 in the high-end one, whereas
11.
these ones only have 8, 11. So,
yeah.
These are getting higher scores at, much fewer CUs. So
yeah.
There's a lot to be said there.
Yeah. And, again, one of the big jumps they said on mobile side was like, we got, because Vega in desktop was in add-in board was not impressive. It was impressive for people to make fun of, but it wasn't impressive as far as what you got out of it. When they moved those Vega cores into a smaller process, it made a big difference. Same thing in Ryzen 4000. Unfortunately, we don't have a Ryzen 4000 APU. Those were, again, not generally available to the public. They weren't pushed to the public. It would have been interesting to see, but I would bet the performance would be pretty close over the non-existent 4000 parts. It's really against the 3400G. So that's Fortnite, but still you're getting a decent uplift. And again, you go to 3600, you get more. As we move into a little harder load, let's do Shadow of the Tomb Raider. This is run at 1080p, very low. It's you're getting 38 frames a second, 1080p Shadow of the Tomb Raiders, which is pretty damn good considering you ain't got nothing. And one thing we haven't talked about here is Intel. Intel's just IGP on desktop. The original, of course, newer cores in the original UHD that they basically reused about 195 times. It just kind of stunk. If you go back and look at some of these results, it's just terrible. Basically, it's barely worth even running. Rocket Lake, which actually has sort of the newer cores. It doesn't have the latest cores in Tiger Lake. But the other thing they made a big difference when they built Rocket Lake, they said, we can't put 96 EUs in this. The Tiger Lake XE graphics in a 28 watt CPU has 96 EUs echo. This thing only has I think 32. So they step back the EUs considerably. They're also the older graphics cores from basically Ice Lake. Basically, AMD just whoops them. It's different on mobile because they got Tiger Lake. If you're looking at Tiger Lake U, but on desktop they just get whooped.
I think it's worth also pointing out, like looking at these charts, like he ran all these at 1080p at very low.
Yeah.
Like if you're buying an APU, you probably really should be playing at 720, pretty much across the board, unless you're playing esports, and you would be able to either crank up the quality or get even higher frame rates. So
yeah. No, I agree.
I was looking at these thinking that you're probably going to be able to get at least a console-ish experience. Not current gen console though. I think
smooth
like
30
shading,
previous gen.
30.
But honestly, if that's the best you can do without having to, pay the almost $400 for a 6600 XT, then that might be the better solution for some folks.
Yep, I agree. And very last chart. This is Borderlands 3. that Sebastian
give me
ran.
another one after this.
Huh?
You give me another one. Oh no.
This is it. This is it. I told him I was going to cut it short because, believe me, if you think I'm bad with charts, PCWorld goes overboard. So,
pointing fingers.
Yeah,
no,
wow.
I just
throwing shade at our.
So, but this actually, there is actually some. So, remember, this Ryzen 5000 APU has a full by 16. You can drop in a real GPU, and when you do that, again, I think Sebastian used a Radeon RX 6900 XT. Might have been a 6800, but clearly not exactly a low end GPU. You kind of want to see what you're going to get, because my thoughts are you eventually go, oh, I can now finally afford a GPU. They're cheaper. And I particularly picked Borderlands 3. There are other results. It actually gets closer depending on whether the game is more GPU bound. Borderlands 3 I thought was a good representation of something that is more CPU bound. And what you could potentially see is now the Ryzen 7 5700G, which has just been pretty stellar everywhere else. Not looking really hot here in Borderlands. You can see that it's underperforming a Core i5 11400F. It's underperforming an i5 11600K. It's well underperforming. Although, I mean, it's not unplayable. It's not unplayable at all. But a Ryzen 5 5600X is right there. It's right there with the Rocket Lake i9 part. 5700G is basically almost down to the bottom 1/3, bottom 1/2 of this chart. Because
it is, however, still faster than the 3900X.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, 3900X, there were a lot of things that were improved in gaming, especially with the 5000 series, yeah, it's still faster than that, but I think it's worth pointing out that, and I picked this because I think Ryzen 7 5700G is clearly underperforming the real competitor to it is the Ryzen 5 5600X by a considerable amount, not the end of the world, but a considerable amount. And that really points to who should really buy this part. And I really think the person, if you're going to go out and like, you know what, I'm going to start with an APU because that's all I can afford. The world is insane. I can afford an APU. I can, afford a motherboard for it. And I can't afford a GPU right now. And I'm going to just have to roll with it for 24 to 36 months. That's the way to go, right? If you're the kind of person that says, no, you know what? I'm going to go out and I think I'm going to buy a GPU almost immediately within 6 months or something, or I'm just going to go out and buy a GPU with it. Well, then clearly a Ryzen 5 5600X, which is actually cheaper by about 40 to 50 bucks on the street. We'll see how it shakes out for these APUs. It makes more sense. But that doesn't make the Ryzen 7 5700G a bad part. It just depends on where you're going from. If you're going to roll with IGP for a lot longer, or, it makes more sense. But if you're going to go straight to a discrete part almost immediately or basically from day one, go with the non-G part, I think. I think that's the way I sort of see it. And then, of course, the Ryzen 5, honestly, you give up 2 cores, so you're going to give up CPU performance. If you care less about CPU performance, go with that Ryzen 5. The GPU side, the IGP, I don't think it's one CU versus, 7 versus 8 is not going to be a huge change. Yeah. I think that's probably the best sort of bang for the buck chip. But, at $359, I know I haven't looked, but knowing the internet, I'm sure there's some squawking. Especially when you consider the original Ryzen 5. I need to read Alaina here to see what I see. The face. I see a sour look on her face. The original Ryzen 5.
I'm smiling.
Oh, okay, the Ryzen 5 3400G was $149 at launch, I think. Right?
Yeah.
So Ryzen 5 5600G is now $259. So $90 more for Ryzen 5. And of course, you go to 5700G for 2 more cores. Worth it to some people, not worth it for others. $359. I'm wondering. I just want to read the reaction. No,
you're waiting for me to weigh in on the value proposition.
Yes, the value proposition.
So I actually think that it's hard to do a direct comparison to the 3200 and 3400G because there's a key difference in this generation of APU versus those, which is that those are using older older cores to begin with for that time. So it made sense that they were in the budget range. AMD has changed its strategy a little bit now, and the cores you're getting is contemporary with the non-G parts. So with AMD saying that these are supposed to slot into that stack equally, I think it makes sense that their prices are different. Yes, it's a bummer that you don't have these really ultra affordable integrated graphics versions of these chips at the 150 price points. I kind of wish they would still do something like that. I think it would be really helpful. But I think it's unfair to just say, oh, price went up, this is bad. I think I would wait to see how it shakes out in the market, how much is available, et cetera, and see what happens from there before me personally making a call on what's the most value. In general, it just kind of sucks a little bit or a lot to be DIY building right now. I honestly think, going back to what you're saying about, okay, do you want a G part, or do you want to just, suck it up and get a graphics card and your CPU at the same time? I honestly think if you're taking one of those two paths, if you're going to try to wait it out, then DIY G is your best route. But if you're going to try to do a GPU with the CPU at the same time, honestly, pre-built might be the better route. And so that way you're not getting as, what's the family-friendly word? You're not getting as hurt by the shortages and the scalping and whatnot. Because I was looking at pre-builts just yesterday for a different article that I was working on, and the system integrators, it's the prices are looking not terrible again.
You know what's terrible, though? You know what's really terrible? Because I was really behind the curve on this. No, and this is not a segue thing, because this is really a terrible thing. Because, you know what? Let's make sure
I have something left to say.
Let's make sure we're properly calibrated here. I'm gonna say this, then Brad. Although the price on Amazon of a Ryzen 5 3400G, I just looked it up while Alaina was talking. $327, and that's from Amazon. It looks like, because that's from Amazon Prime. So $327 for a Ryzen 5 3400G.
I mean, they're inflated right now, obviously.
I know, but I just didn't realize maybe APUs aren't bad. But look, the price in a Ryzen 3 3200G is $229. Amazon. I just had no idea too, because I hadn't. And the crazy thing is that's actually down, because at some point it peaked at 555 for used 3400G.
Yeah. Oh,
that hurts my heart so bad.
Yeah.
We all hurt. We all.
Yeah,
hurt.
that's
just at that point, just get a 3100 and a GT 1030, which also hurts, but not as bad.
Yeah, so you know what? That 6600's a ripoff. I'm gonna go get a 3400G for $327.
So yeah, that doesn't make me super optimistic about the street pricing of these, because these are what entry-level PC builders who want to play in some way are looking to get. I'm just glad that AMD made these and made these still available to consumers, because right now, yes, the price is higher, but right now, as you just said, 3400Gs are selling for $300. You can't buy a graphics card. This does have 5600X sometimes beating style of performance with the most modern, CPU cores. At $359, you have what you need to be able to go play Fortnite, to be able to go play Shadow of the Tomb Raider, to do what you can to hold over. And yes, the price again is high, but I think that's actually really good. That's a great price to get everything you need to go start building the gaming PC for today. So I'm glad it happened. It does stink that they didn't bring the Ryzen 3 version to DIY, but there are pre-built systems with a Ryzen 3 version of this available if you decide to go that route.
We kind of answered this question, but I'm going to say it again because Mike Quinton gave us $40 super chat.
Oh, wow.
Thank you so much, Mike.
Thank you.
And asked, will the supply of the 5700G be normal or limited? Will the price skyrocket? We just kind of talked about that, but
I suspect
that's more than a $40 question.
I think it will. That's
a $1 million question, really, right?
But I mean, if a 3400G is selling for $327, what in the world? And clearly, this newer CPU is way better. CPU side, it's hands down so much better than a 3400G. And then the 8, but what's it? Are people really gonna? Is this gonna be a $600 APU?
I really think it depends how much they release into the wild, and that we can't predict that now because we just don't know what it's going to look like until everyone queues up to buy on, was it Thursday?
Toilet paper launch.
Oh boy.
Yeah. No, I don't think it's a toilet paper launch at all. And again, that's part of the reason why I'm kind of glad they have these higher end versions, because if they did try putting out a Ryzen 3 version, it would disappear and get jacked immediately. But at 360, it's still a value compared to trying to piece together a CPU and a GPU. And that is high enough. And it's only a single die, you were saying, too.
Yeah.
These configurations. So they can probably get a ton of these out of their wafers again. Like, that makes such a huge difference because all these AMD wafers are going to Xboxes and PlayStations and Ryzen APUs and Radeon chips and all that stuff. So I'm hoping availability will be somewhat decent at least around the launch.
Well, remember, toilet paper launch isn't about availability; it's about demand. So yeah. So I think it's a toilet paper launch. I think that they're going to have enough, but I think the demand is still going to be pretty high because everybody wants new stuff.
I had no idea. I mean, it's $150 APU going for 327. That's more than double its price.
I also think that the 3400G is limited supply, like ultra limited supply. So I wouldn't, for anyone listening, I wouldn't take what Gordon is saying as, the canary in the coal mine for what's going to happen with these new parts coming out. It's a very different situation, partially because we just don't know what's going to happen yet.
$500.
I agree. At this point, trying to get a new 3400G, they haven't made those in forever. So yeah, if you're desperate, that's what you're paying. But hopefully, there's a bunch of these.
But so I think the one thing that kind of gets me is So looking at the pricing history of the 3400G, so originally it launched, it was essentially $149 all day. Looks like it basically the prices got crazy the end of last year. Interestingly. For most of last year, it was actually reasonably priced.
Yeah.
But now, maybe it is supply issues, but I just generally think if it's from Amazon, I sort of see that, supplied by Amazon, then generally it's
the end of last year is where the GPU shortage started.
So I was also keeping track of 3200G and 3400G last fall, and that's about when you started seeing it really go out of stock. It was really available until about the same time period or the same coincidental time. Ugh, I didn't have breakfast today. Sorry, everybody.
Yeah. Oh, and the other thing I do want to point out, it comes with a basic Wraith cooler. Nothing special, no copper heat slug, just
no RGB.
No RGB, not at that price. Also, it's, processor in box and also, AM4. So the nice thing is AM4 in the latest 500 series chipset. I think what's also nice about this, I think it's got a lot of growth potential. Like if you're really just kind of in a bad jam right now or whatever, it's an awesome CPU. You can upgrade it with the GPU later, and then even later you can drop in, a 12 or 16 core Ryzen. And, we don't know, but there's a good odd that maybe the Vcache versions will even give you. So there's just sort of like a lot of wiggle room in that one socket. If you build a system around this chip, you have a lot of places to go over the next, 4 to 5 years, 7 years, because the socket will be so flexible with different, faster CPUs you can buy. And plus it has the latest security mitigation. So
wait, can we back up just a second? I want to pull out something that you said that may seem inconsequential, but I really want to know. Did you just say that the 5700G only comes with a plain, like mid-level Wraith cooler and not the Wraith Prism? Like you get no RGB with that? I'm just saying, for $360, I would expect that you would have gotten the fun cooler.
Under advice from my attorney, I must decline to give that information, as it may be self. Yeah, it's not There's no.
It's a bummer. I'm just saying it's a bummer. Like the 3700X came with the Wraith Prism.
Did it really?
Well, it's a lot better than the other 5000 series chips because they don't come with any cooler whatsoever anymore.
Yeah, no, it's a plain old Wraith cooler. So
it's a bummer.
There's nothing. No RGB. Really. Yeah, what? This last shuttle is leaving the zombie apocalypse city, but are you saying you don't have a shuttle that comes with? Because I really wanted to get on board a shuttle that had leather seats and blue. You got to get on this shuttle, man, because zombies and you need to go. No, I want a little more style in the shuttle that carries me away from the apocalypse.
Hopefully the shuttle has beer because Steven Anderson gave us $10 super chat. Thank you so much, and said, "Thank you. Have a beer on me." Yeah, I don't have one on hand, but I will get one just for you. I promise. So, anything else with this new AMD hardware that we should cover before we move on?
No, I think
hopefully you can buy it.
Hopefully you can buy it, and I'm surprised nobody are. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe people are not. Maybe they're angry about pricing. Muscle is really sort of like they've done too many repetitions. They're like, yeah, they built up that angry about hardware prices. They're not that angry anymore. So
different crowd too.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah,
sure.
You know what is for every crowd?
What?
I'm gonna say full nerd merch. Yeah, we got merch. We still have some special edition stuff. People get in on a nice. I still haven't gotten mine in for my own use, but a short sleeve button up with the full nerd embroidered. We got a nice. I pinned it in here. What was it? It's a long sleeve plaid embroidered. Pretty nice. So those be going away soon. So yeah, get in on those. Also, I just got this morning new designs. Finally, we hired a freelancer to do some new T-shirt designs. I got 4 new designs coming in. First round looking pretty good. So new T-shirts, new designs coming in. I know that's what people want, but we still got some cool designs still over there. Go check it out.
I just got my shipping confirmation for the embroidered one this morning. So
nice.
They're on the way out.
Sweet.
Oh,
sweet.
Huh.
Yeah.
I bought a Wrath of Khan hoodie, and it still has not arrived. I need to check with the vendor.
Oh, all right. Sweet. Yeah, cool. Then, did you buy your latest gaming PC here in California, Gordon?
Not in California. No, so this next topic is, of course, PC gaming ban. I know people's outrage muscle has already been sort of stretched and then re-stretched again by the people. Great videos by Steve at Gamers Nexus and Jay's 2 cents, sort of correcting the record on the PC gaming ban that did not happen. Let's just write headlines based on a headline. The shorts
and a great article by you. It's not a video, but you put out an article saying the exact same thing.
Yeah. So there was news, of course, that supposedly PC gaming PCs were banned in California, basically because of power demands. This all kicked off because of Alienware/Dell that had a note saying on a few configurations they could not ship it to the States. So people got out there, jumped to conclusion, Matt, and decided that the great state of California, which, believe me, I'm kind of used to, has banned gaming PCs. That's not true at all. Was basically the state has enforced more efficient efficient demands of desktop PCs. Some of those gaming PCs that Alienware made did not fall into the specs, so they decided, hey, we're not going to ship it to California, Oregon, Washington, Hawaii, Vermont. Feels like there's one more, but that's plenty. Of course, people want to blame Alienware, Dell. People want to blame California. My take on this really is like this was, more efficient standards. Probably Dell had some machines that it's outside the spec. We just won't sell them there, which they can't because of the regulations. And frankly, let's remember there's like a component shortage global wide. So rather than take those machines and just not sell them, they're selling them in the states that don't have those demands. So you don't really have to get immediately outraged at Dell either. Frankly, I think it's just what are you gonna do with those machines? Not sell them? They're gonna sell them. They're just not gonna sell them here. Of course,
I'm surprised they were in that position because weren't these laws coming for a while?
Yeah, they basically passed them in 2016 when no one was looking, frankly, and it's been they went into effect last year, and then they kicked up into tier 2 this year. They got a little harder, but component shortage. You may have to take power supplies that aren't as efficient to sell your machine. That's just we don't know what their logistics are. That's why I think people in the anger machine don't really need to necessarily get angry at them for not selling to California. Whatever, tough luck. Just somebody benefits in another state, but they still got to sell the machines, and there's a component shortage. So I think the anger is misplaced. I also do think the freak out over California doing this is, there's a lot of people who think this is California. Believe me, I live here. California is California, but this I did a lot of reading on this subject 2 years ago, and from also speaking to vendors, people were actually surprisingly pleased because believe me, I wanted to get the real story on this because some vendors had told me it is the end, and some other larger vendors said, actually the state has actually been pretty gracious about this. So, and frankly, as pointed out by Jay's 2 cents video, he has one on monitors, he has one on PCs, and Steve's. There's enough cutouts in this that you can see in the regulations that it really isn't that hard to make. So I know people think it's just overregulation by the state, then copied by other states, but for the most part, everybody seems pretty happy. Yeah, it's harder, but it's going to get harder. It's going to come. But I can tell you from what vendors told me a while ago, they thought it was pretty reasonable. There was a lot of advice from component companies that went into the regulations. And there were also, as you can imagine on this issue, this is the reason I do want to talk about this, even though it feels like it's a dead horse at this point. There's a lot of groups that would like to see everybody play games on a laptop, or there's people who would want to see you basically play it streamed or on a console. Those people the state did not go like, yeah, let's do that. Let's make it impossible for you to buy a gaming PC, right? That did not happen. So I think people need to understand everybody's actually trying to work here because the state likes tax money and companies make money. So it's so far been pretty good. I actually have a story I'm working on where I think people should also pay attention to this. Frankly, if you're old school like me, it was cool to have a machine with a 1600 watt power supply and 3 or 4 graphics cards, right? And an HEDT part that just, you could not run it on a 16 amp circuit sometimes, right? So that was cool. We definitely need to have different thoughts about that sometimes, but so I just wanted to bring it up here, even though it feels like a dead horse, but one, gaming PC is not banned in California. They're getting more efficient. And yes, the state has actually, it is California, but it sounds like they're actually being pretty reasonable. And I think probably the one example when I talked to the state a couple of years ago, they said, well, look, we got to start somewhere. And I know it makes everybody angry and it pisses me off, frankly. And I'm going to see if this works on both of you, but low flow showers, right? Right. Mm-hmm. Those low flow heads that you get in the shower that basically feels like a squirt gun. That starts somewhere. And it's annoying. And people go out and they'll buy high flow heads, or they'll just modify the head to give them more water flow, which, I understand because sometimes it is a little too low. But, considering the situation the Western states are in, it's like, well, okay, maybe I can see it. Right. So you got to have some understanding with it.
No, it's a good place to start from.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, you got to advance that stuff. And like you said, it's not just California either. Vermont, I heard you mention, was one of those. Exclusive offer for full nerd listeners. I live in New Hampshire. If you want to buy an Alienware, I will smuggle it over the border for you for a nominal fee.
After maybe testing it for you first.
Yeah, and I think really, I really sort of take it's sort of whiplash from like, oh my God, this is crazy overregulation. And there are times, see fuel tanks. If you have a gas tank, you will understand this. One of those portable things you put gas in your. If you just have a gas can, you'll understand the craziness of government sometimes. At the same time, it looks like everybody was trying to work together on this. So, but I do think the key warning that I think people need to be aware of is the people that say like it's a zero. The people who will always push for you're using too much power. That's going to continue. People are going to say you need to use less power. Your gaming PC should not use 450 watts when you play a game, right? Specifically cited by one group is like, look, an Xbox uses 180 watts or 100 watts, 150 watts.
So it's better.
Well, no, but I mean, of course there's clear differences, but there will be, people need to realize that people will be turning the screws slowly and slowly on gaming PCs at some point. And I think the way to prevent it is to get ahead of the curve. One, you have to be involved with your input, and there's things you should do, like put your computer to standby, and there's things you can do. Whereas my kids walk away from the machines and they'll just let it stream their favorite Twitch star for an hour and a half. It's like, it's not, what is that getting me? What is that getting you? Mm-hmm. You're doing that to help that Twitch person? No, they can get somebody else to watch them. So turn your damn computer off is my message, but
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I'm not, once I started you started digging more into the details, it's like, this is not anything to really be mad about whatsoever. This is a net good. It's encourages companies like AMD, Intel, NVIDIA, power supply companies to, put some effort into these things as well. Like, try to make this low wattage, try to get more efficient. And I think that's great for the environment. So,
yeah, but at the same time, I am worried, because frankly, you're trying to, if you ever look at the rules for how they try to enforce all this power stuff, it is insane, and it's also, it is really insane because you're trying to write regulations that somehow restrain a physical technology. And believe me, it changes. There's stuff like, you count the number of SATA ports on the system. Nobody's running 8 SATA ports anymore, right? So no. It's just, there's a lot of things that when you bake it into a regulation and you have this fixed law, it's just like, well, this is dumb. You end up like 5 years from now, you may have a computer with 6 SATA ports, even though no one's using, like you go with 1, but it's there because of the stupid regulation that was never updated. So there are legitimate reasons to not want to have the government stick their nose into it, because that's always the case. It's always the case, right? And again, gas can, go out and buy a gas can from a gas station, try to put some gas in your car, you will understand. So, and I'm bringing that up because with gas cans, they have, somebody along the line came up with like, we need to have, and again, I think it started with California, it's a carb compliant gas can. And the whole idea is like, look, people put gas in these gas cans and then they don't cap them and all the gas evaporates. That's bad. Well, one, how many gallons is that? Like 180 gallons versus like the 12 million gallons we burn in everything else. And then if you're paying for a gallon of gas and you're so dumb that you're going to let it all evaporate before you can use it, well, but instead of saying, hey, why don't you make it a cap that can't get lost, they basically have these mechanisms in these nozzles that unlock when you put the fuel into your car or mower, and it just spills everywhere. And yeah, of course, there's some people who would say, well, these gas cans are bad because the makers made them bad. But it's just like, it's also like, well, they're also bad because this regulation is haphazardly written and you're selling a gas can for $8 and you can't now charge $30 for it because no one will buy it. So it's, I don't know. Sorry.
Well, on the plus side, I think Alienware said that they said, going forward, all their stuff's going to be fully compliant too. There's just a handful of models that.
Yeah. We actually did get a question over on Discord before we move on. Pack NW asked, couldn't Alienware pre-install folding at home on the high-end PCs and market as medical equipment exempt for California?
Yeah, there are ways.
That guy thinks.
Yeah, no, there are. And clearly there are so many outs written into this to allow for high-end performance computers to exist. So yeah, they could have probably done that, or they could have just put in like a fatter GPU. Go ahead.
That reminds me of the Elon Musk flamethrowers, the Boring Company ones, where they were having trouble shipping at certain places because they called it a flamethrower, so they just wrote "not a flamethrower" on it, and were able to ship it places.
Just like Sharpie.
Perfect.
I would agree though, because that thing was not a flamethrower. That thing was sad.
It's like a big ass butane lighter. So
I mean, I was like, "Whoa, this is going to be cool." Like, no, this is not a flamethrower. This would the flame went out like 4 feet or something like that, right?
I still regret not buying one, to be honest. But
really?
Oh yeah, I would play with that.
Wait, so what's the technical definition of a flamethrower then?
Well, they use the different materials. I would think the actual like napalm and stuff. Well, not napalm. That's illegal now.
Well, they do. Like an actual like an army flamethrower actually sprays napalm basically.
It's still legal? I wasn't even sure.
No, they're not legal. They're not legal at all. I think they're actually flamethrowers are actually.
But Gordon has a couple if you need it.
I think they're actually classified as destructive weapons. So I think they are. It's not. So yeah, an actual flamethrower you cannot buy. So, but that thing was not a flamethrower because like there ain't no flamethrower, man. That's like a big ladder with some kind of. It just it was steroids. Not. It was really like
right. Elon Musk doing something stupid, weird. But Brad, do you regret not buying an Intel Beast Canyon Nook? That's the question.
I do not.
Oh, okay. Well,
I like them big. Oh wait, that one is kind of big.
It is big.
Yeah.
In fact, if you give me a second, I can do some show and tell.
There we go. Fun.
Wait, don't throw your back out lifting it, Alaina, because
it is quite large.
It's a chunky one. So this is Beast Canyon.
Wow.
It is eGPU enclosure size, I would say.
Pretty much.
That's what Adam was saying. This is 8 liters. That's if I can bring it into field here. And if you've been following NUCs, you know this is quite larger than the original 4x4-inch little mini PCs that Intel started with. So I want to say 2016, they came out with Skull Canyon, which was, I don't know, like yay big.
It was cute.
Which is already larger.
Like VHS.
Than your typical, even smaller than that, because the Hades Canyon, which came after in 2018, that one was more like VHS tape size. And so those were like their gaming NUCs. So these were specifically designed to appeal to this crowd who wanted like the most badass, high-end, like mobile type parts that you could get. And at the time, like I thought they were pretty cool because these were things that you could not build yourself. So if you wanted something that portable, they were filling this like very small section of the PC market and fulfilling their needs. With Beast Canyon, and I'm not sure how many of y'all have already seen the reviews and I haven't watched it yet, but I've heard that GN's teardown is a little, I don't know if violent's the right word, but I did I raised my eyebrows a little hearing the chatter around it. It's like, ooh, that sounds like it's a viewer discretion advised when I go see it. But this is a lot larger. This is, as I said, 8 liters. It's starting to compete with small form factor PCs. And so for me, this is the first gaming NUC that I actually said, I think I could do better DIY. I think for my use case, I think I could actually get more out of this by going DIY. Because here's the thing, when you look at the numbers, and I did not send a basket full of charts to Adam for this segment. I decided to just kind of just decide.
I don't believe you know.
I decided to wing it a little bit. If you want to see the benchmarks, the numbers, all that, it's in my review on PCWorld.com. But basically, this mobile chip falls exactly where you would expect it to, given that it's kind of a variant of the, 11980 HK, which is the top end Tiger Lake H mobile part. So it does well single core. I mean, it's impressively fast. It's not a bad chip, not at all. It's just more that at this point, do you want something that is sort of easy to slot in because the whole premise with this NUC is that it's modular. So you have the compute element holding your CPU, your RAM, your storage in one component or one card, essentially, that slots into a PCIe slot rather. And then on the other side, you have your GPU. This is not as straightforward as Ghost Canyon, its predecessor. Ghost Canyon was easy just to open, get in up to the parts, drop things in, and then get out. The thing about that was that it was 5 liters. And so at 5 liters, it is a royal pain in the butt, in my opinion, to do DIY. Like, you have to be pretty dedicated to work in a small space of that caliber, or that size rather. Brain, words, what's that? This actually makes you go through a few more steps to get to those modular parts. And so in theory, it's easy to do upgrades, but I didn't look at the instructions before I went in. I might have taken the top off a little bit erroneously. So there's a bit of adhesive that's no longer as sticky as it used to be, let's just say.
So whose fault is that?
I think that there are, while I always fully encourage everyone to read the instructions, I am definitely a read the manual kind of person. I do think there are going to be other people like me who might think, oh, I've worked in systems before. Oh, I think this looks pretty straightforward. Oh, maybe I really should have watched that video. So I think with that fiddliness, it's not that same straight, easy recommendation of like, okay, you don't want a headache. It's going to cost you kind of at the nose for it. But go ahead and do this because it'll make your life infinitely easier. And what you want is simplicity. Now, I would say that it's like, okay, do you really want that simplicity? Or do you need a little extra oomph from a socketed desktop part? Because if you do, it's probably going to be worth just the little extra time you're going to invest into building a small form factor PC, as opposed to going with this. And even though Intel says that it's going to continue releasing compute elements, there always comes that day where a company decides to shelve its products. And so
even Alienware just had that where they got sued over it. They only did the one generation.
Yeah. So far, I feel like Intel is more committed to this idea of modular PC, mini PCs, semi mini PCs than the Alienware initiative was. But I think that it's like, okay, well, you can't really reuse the case. You can't, really move parts around, and reuse things the way you could with DIY. So at that point, again, it's like the flow chart. You just really have to figure out where you are on that. And so it's no longer just you're in this camp, you really fit the criteria, go, or you're in this camp, you fit the criteria, go. Now it's like you're weighing all these well, do I want to deal with this or do I not want to deal with this? Do I want to gamble on this? I don't want to gamble on this, et cetera, et cetera. So in a nutshell, cool hardware, still top of the line, really great. But for me, even with the return of RGB, and I can't show this to you.
Oh, it has RGB.
But there's a customizable RGB front panel here. So it defaults to a skull, which is pretty cool. It's got accent lighting here and on the underside as well. Love to see it return. I don't think it's enough for me, even though I was asking about the Wraith Prism just, 20 minutes ago.
Oh, I see. So the RGB mattered there, but it doesn't matter here.
All I'm saying is, as configured, I've got the Core i9 version, Core i9 11900KB mobile processor in here. There's another version that's a Core i7. I think it's 11700B. So that's the compute element. It's fitted out with a fairly modest storage, it's 500, and it's just standard 500. No, this one has a PCIe 4 drive in there, so it's not too cheap. Even still, it's a fairly modest configuration. Works out to street price of about that's not true. Works out to a semi-street price of $2,000-ish, just a little under $2,000. The ish part that's assuming you got the graphics card at list price.
That's a big ish.
That is a big ish. If you did a similar ish DIY build, because it's hard to really do exact apples for apples comparison. let's say you put a 3700X in there, that's around $1,500. Say you want to get a little more like equivalent in terms of single core performance, and you put like, I don't know, 5600X in there, or another like actual socketed Intel part in there. I think I tested it or did a sample config with a 11700K. 10700K, that's closer to like $1,700-$1,800. So you're still saving some money. And honestly, with these days, if you're trying to look at your GPU, that actually might be worth it. Again, flowchart. If you're looking at something like this, money is probably not that huge of a concern for you in the first place, but maybe you're also considering it because it's a headache. And so then like you're a different part of the flowchart. So it's just more complex in general.
I have a question though, because compute elements, the most fascinating part to me is that the compute elements, because, this is a second iteration now of what we first saw at CES, a couple of years ago? So
yeah,
could you take the previous NUC and take that compute elements and put it in there? And
yeah, you're supposed to be able to do that. They are selling the compute elements as like a standalone product as well. So I actually have Ghost Canyon sitting off out of view right now. And so I should be able to take this, just put it in there. I didn't have time during my review to really look at that aspect because I wasn't really reviewing the compute element aspect. I was just looking more at Beast Canyon as a entire product. But I did do some swaps back and forth between the two. Like I tested Ghost Canyon, with the current, like the 3060 that's in the configuration review unit that I was sent, and so on and so forth. So they're modular, so you can just do those kinds of swaps.
I'm just wondering though if because the original NUC was a wild success, frankly, and at the time it was like, wow, this is kind of weird, but now everybody sort of emulated it. It feels like they're just trying to get something else to catch fire again with this, but it is weird to have like, basically, I was looking it up. The volume of 8 liters is 2 gallons. So the volume of 2 gallons of milk is basically that box in front of you. He's like, we were joking before when they first showed it off. It's like, where exactly is the small form? Where exactly, because this thing is getting pretty. The joke was what? They're going to make a full desktop sized, full tower.
That's kind of what I'm wondering. Like, where are they going to stop on the size? I feel like maybe they'll stop here because there was a 1 second. I'm going to try to grab Ghost Canyon just to show.
Sure, I'm going to keep talking while you do that because you should be able to hear me. But I just kind of wonder though if the concept is really to get people used to a compute.
Yeah,
card,
it's
right?
Next unit of computing.
Well,
right?
but because the original NUCs are just great because it's a completely self-contained computer. So now for the desktop crowd, there it goes. So it should fit right in there.
So I would think that Intel would stop at Beast Canyon because the limitation with Ghost Canyon at 5 liters was that you couldn't use a full-length graphics card, and you can kind of see the 2070.
Alaina, you just did it.
What?
What the? This Skull Canyon's dumb. I can't fit a full-size GPU in the Skull Canyon. Man, you suck. Oh yeah, check this out. Beast Canyon takes full-size GPU. Man, what do I need a box this big that takes a full-size GPU for? You need to make it smaller. Yeah, we did last time. You're getting mad at us for doing what you're.
I didn't actually criticize Ghost Canyon for that. I actually was very strongly in favor of Ghost Canyon being what it is because I thought it was a great balance between being able to use a discrete GPU, and then also having the ease of the modularity between the compute element and dropping that in and out, as well as the GPU in and out. I'm just saying, for the purpose of what the thread you were on, which is how much bigger can they go, Beast Canyon now fits full-size GPUs. I would be surprised if they went any larger than that because they've kind of fulfilled the full end of what people would be asking for.
Why?
It's not ready at the point. Yeah, it's not ready at the point where you're like, this is big enough now. Who's it really for? So what's the point in going bigger?
That's why I think that is, obviously I was just kidding earlier, but I think the problem is people who would buy this, and that has been tough. But it really is. It's just pushing a concept. But I sort of still see the original concept here is like, how you're used to, motherboard, CPU, other components. this is all of it in one, and so maybe if we get people used to pulling the compute elements card down the road, because you know what, storage is the definition of storage, and RAM is going to get weird as we go forward too, right? I mean, one day. So why not just have it all as a consumer? As a consumer upgrader, you just see, hey, I'm getting this. It's getting all this next generation stuff, and it's one whole thing. So there's no longer this separate RAM, separate this. It's not that. Obviously, it's not that because you're still using SODIMMs and M.2s, but trying to get people sort of used to that style of upgrading,
I think that would be a really cool future, especially for those of us who do tech support for people who want the latest and greatest, but don't necessarily want to deal with all the fiddly parts. But I feel like going from this kind of bleeding edge, cool concept, next unit of computing to the mainstream is a pretty big jump. And I don't know if there's really a path for that set up. Like, it feels like Intel is testing the waters in some ways with these products, just to see what the market bites on, but also I think they're flexing a little, and I think rightly so. I just don't see, like, say one day Dell being like, yeah, we're all in on this, as opposed to being able to do the standard kind of, individual components and have that assembled.
Yeah, no, it's true. Definitely from OEMs, I doubt they would like to lose that much control over them, but at some point you have no control either. So you could see it being packed, but 10 years down the road, you could just see this one compute card packaged to OEMs, and maybe they can do a little more extra around it. But
I still think it'd be cool. Just, I think it would be a long way out from that.
Yeah. It is, 10 years is pretty far. So.
And then you have the very vocal contingent on the internet who's going to be screaming about what that means for DIY PCs, right? Like, don't take that from us. We love that control. Do not. I can't tell you how many times I get comments on the mini PC reviews saying, like, this is stupid. I would never do it because I can't upgrade it. And it's like, I get your point. I get where you're coming from, but this is basically like a hybrid between a laptop and a desktop, dude. Like, not for you. That's cool, but for somebody else.
Yeah. And it's actually and that is a problem the community has is everybody wants everything to be frozen in amber forever. And it's not really the greatest. Like a good point of this, bringing back the PC gaming ban, is Intel pushed ATX 12VO, which is cool. You lose 3.3, you lose 5 volt, you get more efficient power at idle, which is what everybody's chasing. People were like, no, this is dumb. I'm never giving up my multi-rail ATX 12V power supply, right? This is just stupid. Don't, and it's just like, you have to move forward at some point. It's like ATX. Like I've been saying, ATX is, like, what things are we still using in this world from the 1980s, right? So.
I was waiting for you to bring up the whole ATX form factor thing. And I was surprised that you went a different direction.
Well, no, it's the same thing. It's ATX. Like ATX is just, come on, it's ancient.
I know. I poked the bear. I made a mistake.
Yeah, what would be great is with your ATX system playing GeForce Now, because you can't get a GPU.
We'll just get all the regular arguments back up for this one show.
Well, I'd rather have a console.
We are just, I understand, standards are great. And, radical change is bad, but we do have to embrace change sometimes. And a lot of people just simply will not embrace the change. And it really can hold everything back. So
I think the change has to be shown, though, that there is a benefit to it. And I think that is oftentimes one of the key things that's missing from certain marketing messages or coverage about these new things, is that people are very quick to point out the disadvantages. And so in order to overcome that, you really have to really strongly outline what the advantages are, because no one's going to want to move to something that sounds terrible. They're going to move to something that sounds great.
Yeah, but sometimes people will paint something that has potential future upsides into just bad because it costs $5 more. So that's I think a big issue for me. So change is bad is really believe me, I'm resistant to change, but that attitude just, it feels like it's choking us sometimes.
I Well, we need to change over to some Q&A so we can wrap it up real quick. Got a couple super chats. Or real quick, Alaina, anything else on Beast Canyon?
No, I just think that if you are considering this, definitely think more carefully about where you sit and what kind of things you want out of the system in the future, because I think that'll influence whether or not it's right for you.
Okay, nice. Go read your review. Go watch the video. It was a fun little one. We tried something different. It was kind of cool. All right, questions. I already have some questions lined up, so if you didn't get them in, the best thing to do is go over to Discord. There's a link in our description, and you can get some questions in for next time. We do have a couple super chats. Old Man Brian gave us £10. Thank you so much. Said, as gaming has become bigger, etc., some things haven't advanced at all, namely AI, such as enemies in first-person shooters and RTS, real-time strategy games. What will it take to make this better? More money or something like tensor cores, or is it just too hard?
I don't know. I agree with you. That's a big bummer, actually. Like, there hasn't been very noticeable advancements in AI. Our former games writer and myself both used to say, like, Rainbow Six Siege is the only shooter that really feels like a next generation game. And I think that still holds true. And that has nothing to do with the AI. I'm hoping that now that the consoles have these modern Ryzen cores in them, that could encourage, developers to devote a little bit more resources to improving the AI, because you got to remember the consoles had those terrible Jaguar cores before, and that really holds things back. As we were just talking about, things get held back because of stuff sometimes. I'm hoping that Ryzen being in the consoles makes that change. Am I optimistic? No, because it feels like we've been kind of stuck at the same level of AI in games for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. I'm going to disagree too, because I think the good news is, although AI in games really has been pretty flat, luckily the intelligence of the average online player has been coming down to meet the flat AI. In fact, there's some games where I play where you're like, this can't be a real person, right? This must be a bot. And they're like, no, really, because look, they're randomly doing things that benefit nothing, and it's like it's actually not a bot because it's not consistent enough. And people are luckily getting so bad at playing games and so dumb that it will be indistinguishable from today's bad gaming AI and the actual real people playing them.
Look at this dumb bot just dead in the corner firing at the ground.
Idiot.
No, that's not a bot.
Oh, wow.
So World of Warships, obviously.
What'd you call me?
I still play.
I knew it was about World of Warships.
Well, because it's just like, come on. It's like, because everybody's like, they start typing like, must be a bot, right? Everybody's like, yeah, it must, because they're just here farming. No, because look, they just turned around and they did the dumbest thing possible. You couldn't make a bot do something like that. 'Cause a bot would just be cruising and back, collecting points, because you get minimal amounts just by being in a game. But no, it's actually a player that has absolutely no idea what they're doing. So I'm sure you see that in other online games. So good job, humans.
Yeah.
If you're interested in artificial intelligence in games, by the way, there's actually an excellent YouTube channel called AI in Games, simply enough. AI and Games, or in Games. I'm not sure, one of those two. And it's spectacular, like deep dives. So we're checking out.
Nice. CMC Knight asked earlier, how much is AMD and NVIDIA deliberately not pushing performance forward at the budget end due to, of course, supply being low and demand for cards at any price being high?
12.8%.
There you go. That always happens. Like, if you look at every generation, going back, I've been doing this for 6 or 7 years now, reviewing graphic cards for PCWorld. The gains are always lower on the low end. Like, they put the pedal to the metal at the high end because those are the big, heavy, expensive chips that they can charge more for. Down at the low end, it's all about costs and stuff like that, and that's always the case. And this time around, with chip costs being what they are in the pandemic and everything, I don't even know if we're going to see low end parts. So,
okay,
but it's not unusual. It's not unusual.
Although I do want to bring up a point. It'd be interesting to find out is, are the the yield's just so awesome because the classic low end was serviced by taking a good part and turning features off. I kind of wonder if like the yields are just so awesome and everything now that like, you know what, we could sell these at higher end, right? Or obviously they could just give lower end more performance, but that's not how it typically works out.
No.
Friend of the show, John Dokic said, gave us $2. Thank you so much. And said World of Warships is Russian spyware. Sorry, Gordon. This will be a good one. No Cloud over on Discord said, I understand that most benchmarks tilt toward gaming and content creation performance. My question is, what is the ratio of office/business/app/internet/email users versus gaming/content creation user? As enthusiasts, are we too obsessed with the CPU cores and clocks? After benchmarking, should reviewers include what component is the bottleneck for a workload on a review system?
Sorry, I actually had half my brain thinking about it being Russian spyware. And I was just thinking like, okay, we got this installed and it's like, this can't, what? Why are they doing this? Right? No, that can't be. They're doing things that make no sense. That could you imagine like they're trying to analyze this at the GRU? Like, well, this what? No, that doesn't make any sense. They know it's spyware, so that's how you play.
It's them.
Huh?
I think to the new question, yeah, obviously people are using web browsers and Excel and, Word and Google Docs a lot more than they're playing games and they're doing all that kinds of stuff. But that stuff is so much more lightweight compared to the kind of benchmarks that you usually see in reviews. Like you can run that stuff on a Chromebook. You can run that stuff on a netbook. I mean, you can only do it to a certain degree. I mean, you can't have 50 tabs open on a netbook, but for basic everyday use, like there's PCMark out there that we use for laptop reviews that simulates that real world kind of scenario. But to really test what's possible and push these things to the limits, you need heavier benchmarks to see what the differences are when they're really under load. And that's where gaming comes in. That's where the computational stuff comes in, everything you're just talking about.
And also, I do agree with you that there is an overemphasis on performance when, frankly, a lot of people are driving, Office and Premiere and Photoshop, where it's, as you can see, as you saw some of the benchmarks earlier, I try to, with all the laptops and CPU reviews, always have that like, you know what, if you are not doing any of this, it doesn't really matter. I mean, you'll often see the narrative that this one thing is the best thing ever, but it's only the best thing ever if you can actually use all the cores and thread count or whatever special feature. If it's not, then it really isn't the best thing ever. So, but unfortunately, I would blame one, reviewers, because that is our responsibility to make you understand that the performance in Office really doesn't change that much from a lot of these things. And then two, it's also the public, because people are so overly fixated on bigger bar better, right? And it just doesn't, it's not healthy for anybody. But, believe me, no one gives a damn when I say, like, in Office, if you're running Office, it's, one thing is better or this is better. People don't care about that. They want to see bigger bar better. So
I do think, though, that I think the question can be separated into two parts, too, where it's like you really are talking about two different audiences. So if you have an enthusiast audience or somebody who's really trying to figure out, why would I buy, say, a 5600X instead of a 5800X? They're going to need that context. And as Brad was saying, you need to push those chips to their limits to see what that difference is. That's a very different person than somebody who comes to you and says, I just need something so that I can make PowerPoint presentations, sometimes edit stuff in Photoshop to crop things. And that's still also different than somebody who's maybe even past both those user cases and is like, I need to be able to do the absolute max because I am rendering, CG scenes for movies. And so what the space that we sit in, we are going to be giving those benchmarks to the people comparing 5600X to 5800X. It can be overkill, definitely, for somebody who's just like, I just want to open a simple spreadsheet in Excel. And that's why different machine levels too also have different benchmarks. Our laptops that are geared towards general usage, we run PC Mark. We don't go into, Rainbow Six type benchmarks. For our actual GPU reviews, we are going to be doing things like that. So it's just really the audience that's coming to find out the information that they want from that review.
Yeah.
And on the flip side, like for our gaming laptop reviews, we don't even bother running PC Mark because it runs good on all of those.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, I guess my argument though is people only see bigger bar better, unfortunately. And a lot of people, the narrative they will see is like, damn, look at the bigger bar better. It's like, yeah, that's awesome. That really matters that's what you do. If you're doing this stuff, don't overpay for what you're doing.
That's true.
But again, it's a classic, like, Rocket Lake versus, Zen 3, Ryzen 5000. Ryzen 5000 is the awesome part, and most people should buy it. And there are some things that Rocket Lake is better at. But that is not what you heard from anybody. And that's not what anybody wanted to accept, right? And I think that's, to me, I sort of see that because, yeah, it's better. But, frankly, what you're doing, it doesn't really matter. So, but that's not what everybody wants to talk about. That's not what everybody makes memes about or does the tweet about. It's always about like, holy smokes, that's.
So what I'm hearing from all this is you should read PCWorld reviews so you get the real deal info.
Yeah.
I'm just joking.
There we go. All right. Well, we got a couple more we need to get through to get out of here. $2. Derek Sommer asked, now that we see OLED coming in other resolutions for laptops like 1080p, will we see this moved into 1440p? OLED 1440p. What do you think, Gordon?
Yeah, I would think, it very much depends on what the display makers are making, the panels that they're making available to people. It is, there already were 1440p OLEDs, weren't they? Because it was generally a higher resolution kind of feature, maybe, and especially since there's 1440p. But mini LED is still coming along, and I think mini and micro could really change things up by the time it gets here. Mm-hmm. So I think it might, but it very much depends on all of the display makers making it. But one of the big changes I saw with laptops is it was either 4K or 1080p. And a lot of the display makers, and I was always told this because the display makers don't give a damn about, IT, about technology, laptops. Over the last couple of years, they really started making displays for, with computers as a priority, not just simply you get the leftovers from TV. And that's changed. So maybe.
And now we have a bunch of 1440p gaming laptops.
Okay.
And 1610.
Second to last super chat. You're going to have to help me with the name here. Francois Pidonel.
Francois.
Yeah. Gave us $5 and said, back on the benchmark thing, the PC is running out of new usage models. No more killer apps. The cell phones are not. They continue to push forward.
For people who don't know, Francois was a longtime Inteller. He's got a great YouTube channel. Go check it out. He does stuff about, he goes in a jet for some reason, interestingly, these days. But he has a really good point, and I agree, and I agree with that. And that is, I think that's been a limitation of, frankly, Microsoft being asleep this whole damn time. Frankly, that's where that I would blame Microsoft, frankly, for that, because if you think about it, Office really has been static. There's really some awesome, it does incredible things. But why the hell are you not making Office so smart it's doing it for you, right? There's no reason that you have to use the amount of manual labor to make things work in PowerPoint, in Word, in Excel. And I understand why, because it is for professional workforces. But hell, why don't we use the power of, all this machine learning, DL, whatever, AI stuff to just simply make the PC experience better? But we haven't seen it. So, gaming is clearly one area where we get it. We are, of course, seeing it pushed. I know Francois has this problem with AVX 512, but we are seeing that sort of really be an advantage for Intel these days with all the image processing, and that's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So hopefully we get out of this. But yeah, it's about application. It's about software developers. It's about developers.
That's been a big problem with Windows. I think part of it is because Microsoft keeps trying to do new app stores and then radically changing everything and pulling the carpet out every 3 years. Like, they have not built trust with developers, and so developers have been going to web apps and rival platforms.
Yeah, and
it's hard to foster innovation when everyone's like, is this going to work in 3 years if I pour a year into developing something for it?
Yeah. And really, but when's the last, and the crazy thing is somebody at one point like sat down at a spreadsheet and they were like, oh my God, this is incredible, right? Mm-hmm. That was like, what, 1978 or something like that? It's like in all that time, we couldn't do more. I mean, you got to push more, but I don't know how you do it. And maybe the unfortunate thing is maybe it's sort of sailed on us, because it's all about ridiculous things on your phone, right? It's all about, but those things can be done on the PC. Sometimes I kind of wonder if that's what Microsoft's end game is with embracing ARM so hard and trying to basically embrace and extend Android. They're sort of embracing Android and applications into the Windows ecosystem. It's like, well, maybe we can get this a rub off, so you're now making an incredible, rich client for a PC and not just simply for the phone. So maybe that's a long game. But yeah, no, it sucked for a long time, and it just, other than games, right? And where have we seen it? But again. Look at Photoshop. I know everybody in Photoshop is like, oh, I run Photoshop 5.5 that I bought, 10 years ago or whatever. I'm not going to pay for it every month. I swear to God, like right now, like from what I see in Photoshop and what you can do in Photoshop, I really think like, you know what, this is worth $40 a month. And I was that person that like, I'm running Lightroom Classic that I bought for $50. I'm never going to upgrade. And they're really like, they have some really, leveraged, AI stuff. I don't know if you've done it. You can go in and you could take a photo and clip the clouds out easily for you and replace the clouds with whatever. That's all. Agree. Right, yeah. It's all machine learning. It's all server based. Unfortunately, it should be
today's Creative Suite. If you're able to afford it, it is so good at covering for people who have no skills whatsoever.
Oh yes,
in those apps,
and that's what it should be, and it is getting there. Adobe is really driving that. I think Adobe is one thing that could help because I'm sorry, no one wants to really. I don't want to do it on my phone or tablet, but obviously Apple wants to make everybody do it on their phone and their tablet. Somebody needs to. Make sure that that feature is for the PC, making Photoshop and Premiere like it's like I don't have to be Adam to do incredible stuff, right? That's a really cool feature in the PC. So hopefully, but yes, you're right.
Nice. We got one last super chat, Brad. If you need to pop off, you can.
I can do one quick one.
All right. VC Jester, friend of the show, VC Jester gave us $5 earlier and said, "We know your stances on Cameron and Scott." But what is your favorite director? Gordon, why don't you go first?
I would have to say for winning, like, because it's all about winning record.
Or a couple directors. You don't have to limit it to one.
No, that's fine. Chris Nolan, I think, is no, Michael Mann and Chris Nolan. Like, they are really like, yeah, they have had some stinkers because whatever that last one was, Tenet. It was like, that was the dumbest movie ever. That was like, it didn't bomb because this is stupid. I don't need to people walking backwards for an hour and a half to make me think that's a good movie. That was a failure, but that was like, really, it's for me, it's going to be Chris Nolan, Michael Mann.
Okay. All right. Brad, favorite directors?
Michael Bay? No, I'm just kidding. It's not Michael Bay.
Hey, 13 hours is pretty good.
I actually, Ridley Scott is it for me. I don't watch a ton of movies, so I will go with my favorite director is Adam Patrick Murray.
Yes. Oh, that's so nice of you. Wow, I'm blushing over here. Stop it. Alaina?
Can I just plus one Brad? Because I'm terrible at remembering directors of movies. So I don't think I could even name a favorite per se. So we'll just go with you being our favorite, Adam.
Oh, well, although you can go with Willis. Give Willis a turn too.
Who shot? I really love his name, but I forget. The new Mad Max. I really love that.
The same one who shot the original Mad Max.
Yeah, I can't remember the name right this second. That director. He has done many other movies as well, and I like him.
George Miller.
Yeah.
George Miller. Yes, he did Sin City as well, which I thought was awesome. And yeah, George Miller. I like George Miller.
All right. Nice.
I'm really curious what Adam's response is going to be because I've kind of already heard his thoughts on directors to begin with.
Yeah, well, it should come as no surprise. My favorite director of all time, Peter Jackson. I'm just kidding. No, he's on the other end. Wrong. We're doing our favorite. Okay, yeah. Yeah, Stanley Kubrick. Yeah, Stanley Kubrick. I mean, my short list, Stanley Kubrick, boom, top, all time. Second, Christopher Nolan. Third, probably David Lynch. Yeah.
Man, those are all great. I regret not saying one of those.
And then I do watch a lot of movies, a lot of independent movies. There are a couple directors I want to give a shout out if you haven't checked them out. Rick Popko and Dan West. They made a couple couple good movies.
They're fantastic directors. I can attest to that.
Oh, you worked with them?
Yes. I did a couple movies with them. In fact. Yes.
Oh wait, you're in a couple movies? What is this?
I was in IMDb 10 years ago, man.
So you can IMDb Gordon Mahon.
I think it's on YouTube. Yeah. I actually broke out the original DVD that I bought years ago. So yeah, no, it's.
Oh, okay. You know what? There's somebody else, a friend of the show, that actually has the movies on DVD too. So
I will say that Monstered was about 10x better than Eyes Wide Shut too. So that's just. And that just like
hold on.
It says that was a stinker, and I will say that Miami Vice movie, Michael Mann, that was a stinker too. But overall, overall, it's been pretty good win for Michael Mann and Chris Nolan.
I gotta say I'm such a fan of those movies. I got shirts.
Oh my God, they have that.
All I care about is Monstered and maybe like 3 People and Pizza. That's the shirt I got, and then this other one, not super PC, but it was on the internet. Single taken, too busy watching retard.
He actually made. Oh, he has merch. I had no idea. I haven't talked to Rick in years.
So I'm just a big fan.
Oh well, and anybody a fan of Boot magazine from the old days, there's another surprise appearance in Monster that. If you read Boot magazine, that would be a real treat for you to watch.
Really? Oh, okay. Well, we'll have to watch for that. Yeah. Anyway, VC Gesture was very excited about this. He's been chewing on this ever since he found those YouTube links. If you want to see Gordon acting in a movie, you should go over to our Discord. We should pin that somewhere.
That's where I got started.
Yeah, and look at where you are now on the Full Nerd, host of the Full Nerd. There we go. It's all good. All right, let's get out of here. Love it.
We better let Alaina and Brad go because they look like we're torturing them now. So check back next week for your fix of PC talk on the Full Nerd. For audio listeners, subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, or Stitcher, and also please leave a review if you're on one of those services. Every time you do, someone will mention Monstered, one of the greatest movies and 10x better than Eyes Wide Shut. Send questions and comments to thefullnerd at PCWorld.com or fax it. Might as well. Thanks for coming. I'm Gordon Ung with Brad Charkis.
Do watch Monsters. Pretty great. Adios.
Alaina Yee.
I really want to know why it's Eyes Wide Shut is the competition for you.
Because it's sad. It's just sad to like... I mean, you look at like, wow, the work that you did.
It was a rhetorical question.
Oh, sorry. The work.
I gotta go, Gordon. I gotta go.
He's gotta go. And Patrick Murray. To end on it. It's like Francis Ford Coppola.
I mean, it's almost like he died making that movie. There was.
He's like, I'm out.
I'm out. Bye.
Stanley